Hey, where is that?
What are you talking about? Looking for something?
Well,
That kind of conversation started happening more often at home, and I began to wonder if something was wrong with my husband. Then I heard he was making more mistakes at work, leading to his demotion. He was never particularly driven at work, so the demotion didn't seem to hit him so much. Still, as his forgetfulness deteriorated, he decided to go to the doctor just in case. I suspected it might be depression, but the diagnosis was early onset Alzheimer's, which was completely unexpected. To put it bluntly, dementia. I was in shock. I'd heard that even younger people could develop that, but I never imagined my husband would be one of them. My name is Karen Saunders. It's been 5 years since then. I'm now 50, and my husband Tom is 54. We never had kids, and I've been working full-time. My parents have already passed away, but Tom's parents are still alive, living in a rural area a bit away from us. My in-laws are incredibly kind people. When Tom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, they even suggested they take him in so I could get a divorce and not have to bear the burden. However, Tom adamantly refused since he had always disliked country living. As for me, I didn't immediately think of divorce just because of his illness. It was not quite the in sickness and in health ideal, but after being married for nearly 20 years, I didn't think it was right to just say goodbye because of that. Even though Tom was forgetting things more often, he barely managed his daily life. Maybe the medication to slow the progression was helping, and he wasn't so bad to the extent that he could do nothing. He could still recognize me perfectly well. Sometimes he wouldn't respond when spoken to, but when you saw him going about his day, he didn't seem that different from anyone else. Even so, he often claimed he didn't know or couldn't remember things when asked. At work, the mistakes piled up, and there were even times when he'd cry because he couldn't manage filing documents.
I think I should quit. If I do, you'll take care of me, right?
Seeing him so anxious, I couldn't bring myself to say no. In the end, he left his job. As long as he spent almost all his time at home without going out much, he was not really causing any major issues. Sure, he left things out without putting them away, and I often came home to find food scattered everywhere. However, I let it slide since he was not bothering anyone else. Thus, Tom had been home full-time ever since quitting his job. When I consulted the doctor about whether we should arrange for someone to care for him while I was at work, the response was that there wasn't a pressing need since he still had enough awareness to avoid danger. I was told that we would discuss that again if the illness progressed. For the time being, I was advised to lock the doors when leaving and tell him not to go out alone. Though I was uneasy about whether that was enough, Tom kept insisting.
I can handle things alone.
When I pushed too much, he'd get angry.
Enough. I have a disease, okay? Stop nagging me. You're making me more confused. Can't you just be more supportive?
He'd yell, sometimes even becoming physically agitated. When that happened, there was nothing I could do but back off. 5 years earlier, when I was 40, I was promoted to manager. My salary went up, so even after Tom quit his job, we weren't struggling financially at first. Without kids, we'd managed to save up a decent amount, so I wasn't too worried about emergencies. That savings remained untouched to that day. I was really glad I kept working. I just hoped we could keep living somewhat normally for as long as possible. However, at that time, something had been bothering me. Things just kept going missing, like my designer bags, new shoes, and clothes, all quite expensive. Those were what I had saved up and bought as gifts for myself. I wondered if I had misplaced them somewhere unusual. Although I searched everywhere, they were nowhere to be found. When I asked Tom, he just replied,
I don't know.
Hey, are you sure you don't remember taking anything out?
I don't know. I don't remember either.
That was all he kept saying. Could his illness had progressed to the point where he didn't even remember taking things? When I got home from work and asked him what he did that day, he often said he couldn't recall. The doctor had warned me that the symptoms could sometimes progress slowly and other times rapidly. I couldn't help but wonder if his condition was worsening quickly. If that was the case, it would be worrying to leave him home alone while I was at work. If he ever started wandering off, I wouldn't be able to handle everything by myself. Worried about what he might be doing, I secretly installed surveillance cameras inside the house without telling him. I wanted to make sure he wasn't wandering around and causing trouble for anyone. If that was happening, I had to take appropriate action. A week later, after Tom went to bed, I nervously checked the camera footage. I was so shocked. What I saw was far beyond anything I had imagined.
No way. It can't be.
Tom had been bringing another woman into our house. In the 5 years since his diagnosis, we'd barely had any real conversations. He'd only ever given vague answers to my questions, but in the footage, he was talking normally, with no signs of any impairment. He didn't look like someone suffering from dementia at all. When I saw the woman's face, I was even more stunned. She was the doctor who had diagnosed him with Alzheimer's. Come to think of it, the hospital we went to was the one that worked closely with his company's health checks. Was that whole thing a charade between Tom and that doctor? Was his Alzheimer's diagnosis a complete lie?
Are you sure your wife hasn't figured it out at all?
Not at all. Alzheimer's is such a convenient disease. I don't have to work, and I can just say I don't remember anything inconvenient.
You're awful. Making your wife work while you lounge around at home, and even sneaking your mistress in here.
You're the one who suggested it. When I said I hated my job and wanted to quit, you came up with this idea.
I didn't think it would work this well.
The camera showed the two of them laughing together as she crossed her legs.
You know, my wife is so arrogant. I don't know if it's because she got promoted to manager or what, but her paycheck just keeps going up, and she acts all high and mighty. She's definitely been looking down on me.
Well, thanks to her, you get to live like this, right?
Yeah, I guess so. She's basically my ATM. That's why she has to continue working hard for me.
Didn't you call her a housekeeper the other day?
A housekeeper as well as an ATM.
I suddenly understood what it meant for your mind to go blank. The words I heard from the video kept replaying in my head over and over.
Oh, by the way, you should stop taking so much stuff from the house. She's been saying things are going missing.
Why don't you just blame it on your disease? Say you took it and forgot. That's what the disease is for.
Yeah, you're right. What a convenient illness. I'll never have to work again.
That's what it was. All that time, I hadn't doubted Tom but had resolved to support him. For 5 years, I'd worked hard and managed the house without knowing any of that. What was I even trying so hard for? I felt like such a fool. My strength seemed to drain from my body. A laugh escaped me out of nowhere. Maybe I'd gone insane. That was how deeply anger, sadness, frustration, and despair had tangled inside me. Nevertheless, the despair didn't end there. When I checked our bank accounts just in case, I found the balance was zero. The savings we'd accumulated over the years were completely gone. I was overwhelmed by a sense of loss so great that it felt like the world was ending. I felt nothing, no emotions, at all. The next morning, Tom woke up and acted as if everything was completely normal. The moment I saw him, anger boiled up inside me so intensely that I could barely contain that.
Where's breakfast?
I felt an overwhelming urge to grab him by the collar and scream at him, but I swallowed that impulse. Tom still didn't know that I was aware of the truth. Confronting him on the spot and forcing an apology wouldn't be enough to satisfy me. Yet, I also had no idea what to do next. I just knew that if I let my anger show and he brushed it off with a laugh, I wouldn't be able to stand that.
So, what are your plans for today?
Why are you asking me that all of a sudden? You never ask that kind of thing.
I was just wondering what you would do all day at home.
I wish I could work like you do. But with this disease, I'd just be a burden to everyone. I'm jealous of you for being able to work.
I couldn't believe how shamelessly he could spout such lies. Of course, I could divorce at any time, demanding alimony. However, when I thought about the last 5 years, I was so overcome with frustration that I couldn't stop the tears from welling up. Someone who could do something like that so easily would probably shrug that off as a joke, desperately trying to justify himself with flimsy excuses. As I mulled over what to do, a few days passed. Just looking at Tom's face made me feel sick, but I kept that together. The cameras remained installed. Believing I was clueless, Tom continued bringing that woman into our house while I was at work.
Hey, did anyone come over today? It smells like someone else has been here.
I'm not sure, I don't remember. Could have been a salesperson or something.
How's your condition? You seem pretty energetic lately. Are you maybe getting better?
No way. I feel like I've been more forgetful than ever. The doctor said, once it started, it only would get worse, remember?
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of the doctor, she's really beautiful, isn't she?
You think so? I can't remember what she looks like.
It amazed me how long he could keep up that act. Feeling desperate, I decided to take the recorded footage to my in-laws without telling Tom. My in-laws, who had always been kind and considerate towards me, were still his parents. I couldn't help feeling nervous about how they might react. No matter what terrible things Tom had done, they might still side with their son. They might even say his affair was my fault for failing as a wife, or they could claim it was my inability to understand his feelings about hating his job that made him lie about his illness. Even so, I had no one else to turn to. If they were going to blame me, I'd quietly divorce him and move on.
Hello, thank you for taking time today. I have something to talk to you about.
Oh my, what's wrong, Karen? You look so pale. What happened?
Actually,
Come in anyway. Aren't you hungry? Let me fix you something warm.
My mother-in-law's words brought tears to my eyes. My fears turned out to be unfounded. When I showed my in-laws the footage of Tom and the doctor's affair, they immediately apologized to me.
We're truly sorry for the ridiculous thing our son did.
Karen, we are really sorry.
Instead of blaming me, they were crying and begging for forgiveness. Their reaction moved me to tears. The tension that had been building inside me for so long seemed to dissipate. However, that didn't mean my anger towards Tom was gone. Still, knowing I had allies who supported me was a huge comfort. Furthermore, there was something else that lifted my spirits, too. Fortunately, I received an internal notice that I'd be promoted to department manager. Knowing that there was a place where my efforts would be recognized brought me the greatest joy. It reassured me that I had a place to belong.
Hey, Karen. Karen. Are you even listening?
Huh? Oh, sorry, I was spacing out a bit.
I had been so lost in thought about how to punish Tom that I hadn't noticed him calling me.
Don't tell me you're losing it too. If both of us start losing it, it'll be a total disaster.
His words gave me an idea.
What if I were to lose it? Would you take care of me?
Don't be ridiculous. I can barely handle my own stuff. How could I take care of you too?
But, it's been 5 years, and you haven't gotten much worse. Maybe you'll recover? Then you can go back to work. When that happens, I'll count on you to take good care of me.
When I said that, he widened his eyes and stared at me. After that, I started casually repeating things he had said in the past, just enough to make that seem believable.
Hey, what was I doing just now? I've been making so many mistakes at work lately. I feel like I've been forgetting things a lot. Oh no, I forgot how to use the washing machine. Wait, how do you bake bread?
As I kept up that act, Tom grew increasingly uneasy.
I might not be able to keep working. But I'm so glad I have you.
I kept that up for about 2 months, and then one day, I came home from work to find the completed divorce papers left on the table. Apparently, Tom had moved out. He even left a polite little note.
Karen, I don't want to cause you any more trouble, so I've decided to divorce you. Don't try to find me. Tom.
He didn't want to cause me trouble, huh? I knew he ran away because he thought I might actually have dementia. Besides, I knew exactly where he had gone. Tom had rented an apartment to continue his relationship with the doctor. I knew that because I'd caught that on camera.
I think she's losing it, so I'm getting a divorce. I can't be stuck taking care of her, that's no joke. Plus, I already moved our savings, so I'll be fine for a while.
He said so, laughing. He even went so far as to mention the address of the apartment. From their conversations, I also figured out roughly where the doctor lived and visited the area once. She was married and lived with her family in a house in the suburbs. 3 months after I submitted the divorce papers, our divorce was finalized. I sent Tom a bill for alimony and the division of assets to his new apartment. Not long after, Tom called me in a panic.
What the hell is this? Alimony?
Of course, you have to pay that money since we are divorced.
What did you say?
Oh, by the way, I also sent something to your girlfriend. Her husband probably knows everything by now. I bet they're having a big argument.
In fact, I had sent a copy of the footage from the hidden cameras to her husband as well. I figured he had the right to know.
You. How did you get that?
I was also shocked to learn that everything was a lie.
Wait, weren't you losing your mind or something?
Oh, that was just acting. I was just copying you. Turns out it's pretty easy to fool someone.
How dare you?
Ignoring his own actions, Tom started yelling at me, calling me unfair and dirty.
Do you really think you have the right to be angry? You pretended to have dementia for 5 years, lived off my earnings, and even brought another woman into our house. Did you really think you'd get away with that?
He was clearly shocked that I knew everything. Suddenly, he became flustered and tongue-tied.
Well, what's this about the division of assets? I don't have any money.
What about the savings we had together?
Oh, I already spent all of that money. There's not a single cent left.
Even at this point, Tom still had the audacity to lie. I revealed that I had installed cameras in the house. I told him that I had heard everything he said to the doctor and that all the footage was preserved. When I mentioned that his parents were furious about the situation, he snapped and started yelling about how I dared to tell them. It was clear Tom didn't realize he was in no position to yell at me.
Honestly, I should thank you for talking so much. It saved me the trouble of hiring a private investigator and wasting money.
When I said that, he finally fell silent, and I hung up the phone. The following month, Tom called me again.
What the hell is going on?
What do you mean?
I went to the condo, but I was told it had been terminated.
Which condo?
The one we lived in, of course.
When I told him I'd canceled the lease right after he left, he started shouting about how I had no right to do that without his permission. The lease was in my name since he couldn't legally be the tenant after quitting his job. Therefore, I was free to cancel that or move wherever I wanted.
Actually, I bought a condo. That's where I live now.
You bought a condo.
Yeah, thanks to the alimony and the division of assets from you, plus the savings I got back. It's small, but it's my castle.
Are you serious? Then I'll just move in with you.
I couldn't believe his thinking process.
You've got your girlfriend, huh?
I broke up with her. She got caught cheating, got divorced, got talked behind her back, is being sued by patients for misdiagnosis, and is drowning in debt after paying alimony to her husband.
Wow.
So, I've decided to get back together with you. That way, you will cancel the alimony payments I owe you, right?
That was utterly unbelievable. Did he honestly think I'd agree to that nonsense? I was speechless at his nerve.
Are you out of your mind? Why would I do that? We're divorced, and I never want to see your face again. Reconciliation? Not even in the next life.
I hung up, blocked his number, and refused to take any further calls from him. I later heard that Tom went to his parents for help. What he didn't know was that they had sold their house and moved into a senior living community. According to my in-laws, Tom was shocked to see the for sale sign and contacted them in a panic. Through a lawyer, I ensured the alimony and the division of assets were settled, leaving him with almost nothing. Unable to find stable work, Tom eventually lost his apartment for non-payment of rent. With no other options, he must have tried to turn to his parents. My in-laws had anticipated that and moved to avoid him. If he ever came back and tried to stay, they wouldn't be able to get rid of him. They told me that that would bring shame to me. Apparently, Tom is now working and living at a factory, barely scraping by. His laziness has made it hard for him to keep up, and he gets yelled at daily by younger coworkers. He has repeatedly asked his parents for financial help, but they've refused every time. It's been a few years since the divorce, but I still keep in touch with my in-laws. They've always been like real parents to me. I want to maintain a good relationship with them and be sure to support them if anything ever happens. Now, I've been promoted to department manager, and my salary has increased. I'm going to keep working hard. I'm thoroughly enjoying my peaceful, independent life.